Next week is shaping up to be a pivotal moment for the markets, potentially one of the most telling periods we've seen in a while. Why? Because I genuinely believe the next major move begins then. It's time to pay close attention and observe where this momentum might carry us. So, go ahead and mark your calendars. Monday, May 19th could be a game changer. That's the day XRP futures officially launch on CME, one of the largest and most influential derivatives exchanges on the planet. Over the past week or so, we've been sounding the alarm on the fragile state of the market, and this specific date could very well act as the catalyst for what comes next. Whether it propels the market into a bullish breakout or triggers a steep decline, this moment carries serious weight. Alongside tracking XRP's price behavior, we'll also look into some noteworthy developments like fresh tariff updates from Walmart, highlighted by Ash Crypto. But the real shocker? A massive whale just opened a staggering 40x leverage long position on Bitcoin, valued at a jaw-dropping $276 million. That's not your average trade. The liquidation point for this position is around $95,000, suggesting this player might be an insider or a bold institutional investor with deep conviction. And there's more. Not just the Bitcoin long, but a 10x long on K, and an aggressive 20x leverage long on XRP, valued at $34 million, entered at approximately $2.51. While the exact liquidation level for the XRP trade remains unknown, the size of the bet alone speaks volumes. It's either a supreme act of confidence or sheer audacity. So now, everyone's wondering, will the market explode upward, crash downward, or zigzag unpredictably? That remains to be seen. Whether this whale has insider knowledge or just nerves of steel, time will reveal their fate. As for me, regardless of whether XRP skyrockets, dips, moves sideways, or pulls a surprise move, we stick to the plan. Lately, the market's been pretty stagnant, with price action showing little excitement. But for over a week now, I've been pointing out that the XRP to Bitcoin ratio is on a downward path and day so far. That call is proving accurate. We're gradually approaching the lower boundary of the range we've talked about before, and I'm sticking to that strategy. I continue to believe XRP will decline further relative to Bitcoin, but I don't see it dropping below a key support level. If it does touch that zone, and then quickly bounces back up toward the top of the range, that can actually serve as a warning signal. Even if XRP spikes to revisit its all-time high or even surpass it, that kind of move might indicate potential trouble ahead. What I'm anticipating is a sharp drop, followed by a rebound, with the broader picture unfolding from there. I haven't spent too much time on the XRP to Bitcoin or XRP to USD charts lately because, in my view, everything hinges on what Bitcoin does next. Bitcoin has been surprisingly resilient, and that strength is what's keeping XRP from falling apart. XRP has been underperforming compared to Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin were to suddenly break down, XRP would likely take a hit too. But it feels like there's a strong force supporting Bitcoin at the moment, holding it up, and, by extension, keeping XRP from sinking further. That said, XRP/BTC still looks like it has room to drop a bit more. And XRP/USD could lose some ground, too, though I don't expect a massive crash, as long as Bitcoin stays relatively steady or gains some momentum. Still, my instincts tell me the XRP/BTC pair has more downside, but not beyond a crucial floor. Even if it hits that lower bound, it wouldn't spell disaster, as there's significant liquidity both below and above that zone. These liquidity areas often act as magnets for price action, and in the past, it only took a small move to wipe them out. Currently, there's clearly more liquidity positioned above the current levels than below, suggesting that the upside potential is stronger than the downside risk. So yes, I do believe XRP is primed for a breakout price trend eventually, but for now, we need to stay patient and observe whether we get that final dip or an early push upward. The coming week will be especially revealing, with XRP futures set to launch something that's already attracting early long positions from certain insiders. This could mark a turning point. Zooming into the XRP/Ethereum chart, We're beginning to see bullish divergence on the daily time frame, which is encouraging. As for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, I'd like to see one more decline to mark a clear bottom, followed by a solid rally that would be the ideal setup. This doesn't necessarily mean XRP/USD has to drop again. It's more about Ethereum's relative strength to XRP over the past several months. Once that last leg down happens, XRP might finally start gaining momentum against both Ethereum and Bitcoin, potentially leading to a move toward, or even past, previous all-time highs. That's the scenario I'm watching unfold. Of course, there's always a chance I'm wrong, but this is where my analysis currently stands. At the end of the day, Bitcoin's direction is the most crucial factor. It's sitting at a pivotal moment right now, and whichever way it moves will likely determine the broader market trend. We're in a defining phase. XRP is either on the verge of a major breakout or about to disappoint. Historically, sideways price action like this often precedes a strong rally. However, the fact that it just dipped below the simple moving average SMA is a potential red flag. It may be a sign that the current trend is weakening. So we're at a crossroads. If Bitcoin tanks, XRP will suffer significantly. If Bitcoin rallies, XRP might recover in USD terms, but I still expect it to lag behind Bitcoin in performance. And if Bitcoin drops, XRP will drop even harder in dollar value. That's the outlook I'm holding for the coming days. Interestingly, Raoul Pal recently reviewed the XRP charts on Real Vision, and honestly, the setup looks compelling. It's an eye-catching chart, especially since XRP hasn't been on many people's radar lately. It hints at a substantial upward move, possibly even a new high. The real question is, what's the journey going to look like? Almost everyone agrees that XRP/USD will climb eventually, but will it dip first, pause, then surge? Or will it face a surprise black swan event before rising? Either way, the long-term trend remains upward. And this ties in with Bitcoin dominance too, which many argue is the most critical chart in crypto right now. On the topic of external influences, Trump recently commented that rate cuts are likely coming soon. While the general expectation is that the Federal Reserve will ease rates before long, I remain doubtful. I don't believe they'll make a move unless a major crisis forces their hand. Inflation is still a persistent issue, and the Fed may hold off until there's a dramatic event to justify a large-scale intervention. Trump referred to Powell as "too late Pow," criticizing him for being slow to respond. It almost feels like there could be an intentional effort to let the markets crash so they can then justify aggressive stimulus measures. This would fit the pattern I've been predicting: a sharp market drop, followed by a bottom, and then a recovery rally. Trump's tone seems urgent. He's pushing Powell to act before things unravel completely. While Trump appears to be focused on shielding the economy, Powell might be more comfortable letting it deteriorate in order to build the case for printing trillions in stimulus. The Fed has already begun stepping in behind the scenes, injecting billions into the bond market. Just last week, they purchased $43 billion in treasuries, including $9 billion in 30-year bonds in a single day. Their quiet intervention is clearly underway. On the economic side, Trump went after Walmart, accusing them of blaming tariffs for price increases while making massive profits. He criticized the company for passing the costs on to consumers, a sentiment many Americans seem to share. The economy feels increasingly unstable, and public frustration is rising. We could be headed for a collapse unless something dramatic resets the system. Inflation remains a big issue, and the tariff situation only adds more strain. Walmart's CEO admitted that while they're trying to keep prices down, thin retail margins and rising tariffs are forcing them to increase prices. Consumers bear the brunt of these changes, which seems unfair given Walmart's strong earnings. This situation is spiraling quickly, and it's not a good sign. Powell also addressed the impact of tariffs, warning that sustained hikes could drive inflation higher, slow down economic growth, and lead to rising unemployment. He mentioned that inflationary pressures from tariffs might be temporary, but could linger if pricing dynamics and inflation expectations become unanchored. From my perspective, I don't think the Fed is preparing to act aggressively just yet.